Welcome to Franchise Marketing Radio, brought to you by SEO Samba. Comprehensive high-performing marketing solutions for mature and emerging franchise brands. To supercharge your franchise marketing, go to SEOSamba.com. That's SEOSAMBA.com.
Welcome to Franchise Marketing Radio. Stone Payton Lee Cantor here with you this afternoon. Today's episode is brought to you in part by the Business RadioX Studio Partner Program, equipping franchisors to help franchisees dominate their local market. To learn more about serving your market and growing your business, go to mybrxstudio.com. Lee, this is going to be a fun segment. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast founder with Bio1 Inc. and Best Option Restoration, Nick Anthony Zamucen. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Well, Nick Anthony, before we get too far into things, can you tell us about each of these offerings, Bio1 and Best Option Restoration?
Sure. Bio1 Inc. is the nation's most recognizable and largest crime scene and trauma scene cleaning franchise. We have over 100 locations throughout the United States, and we do everything on the Bio1 side that, frankly, nobody ever wants to talk about. We're not dinner table conversation. Crime and trauma scene cleanup is not something for everybody, but for the right people, it's a great fit. Now, Best Option Restoration, my new company, that is the more traditional restoration company when it comes to water, fire, mold, content cleaning. So it dives into a vaster market with a lot more earning potential in the sense of everyday work. Bio1, they do very well, but they certainly have again, it's not an everyday thing where they're working with the police and FBI. It's specifically on certain occasions. Unfortunately, usually bad occasions.
Now, how do they work together? Are your Bio1 folks the Best Option Restoration folks, or are they totally separate people?
Totally separate franchises. They cross in the sense of when a Bio1, let's talk about a quick scene. When a Bio1 franchise gets called in, let's say for a homicide has happened inside of a house, they go in there and remediate all the biomatter. And what happens is carpets get pulled up, sometimes walls get pulled out. Then a Best Option Restoration guy will come in and relay carpet, dry things out if necessary, and put walls and furniture back together. So the companies work together as a tag team to restore a property and make sure that the homeowner doesn't feel any more anguish than they already have.
Now, so how does it work from the customer standpoint? So something terrible happens in somebody's house, and then they got crime scene stuff. Is that like, does your insurance cover that? Like, or is this all out of pocket? How does the person kind of deal with this financially?
Great question. 95% of the time, homeowners insurance or car insurance, depending on where it's at, covers what the Bio1 people do. It's very rare that a homeowner's policy doesn't. It's deep in the policy, usually on page 59 where no one looks, and it covers things as far as a massive tragedy or accident in your standard homeowner's policy. So we will take care of the insurance on behalf of the homeowner. They've been through enough on the Bio1 side. So we will actually call in the policy, make sure the policy number is put into place, talk to the adjusters, explain the process, and we do everything we can to assist the homeowners to get back to normal and not have to deal with, jumping through the hoops of frankly, of an insurance company, because sometimes insurance companies love to make us jump through hoops. But we'll handle a lot of that for the homeowners.
But what about the Best Option Restoration? There's one thing to remove all this stuff and to make it, functional, but then the other is to restore it back to kind of the way it was.
Right. And yes, that part, it's the rebuild, if you will, is what it's called, is normally, again, covered by the homeowner insurance policy. So again, the homeowner's out of pocket very little. Now, I'll say this. the homeowner is responsible for a deductible, not unlike a car accident where somebody hits you and your car will get fixed. You're still going to have to pay a deductible. The homeowner will have to pay a deductible to somebody, whether it's the Bio1 people or the board people. And that's always after the fact. There's never any payment at the time of service. It's just not the appropriate time in our belief to ask. So they'll probably get billed their insurance deductible. Probably they'll be billed maybe 30 to 45 days after the incident has occurred and everything's been rectified.
Now, if there's no Bio1 in the market, who is doing this kind of work?
There's a lot of what I call mom and pops out there, mom and pop shops. Whether they should be doing the work or not, it's not really the question. I will say there are companies in usually every market that do this. Again, a lot of people don't know about the bio industry because, again, it's not dinner table conversation. It's not something that you want to talk about. But I can say for the, Bio1's in almost all 50 states at this point. So most of the police agencies and sheriff's departments and certainly FBI know who we are, and that's why they call us. The best example I can give you in the latest recent event where it was mass strategy, the Mandalay Bay shooting in Las Vegas a couple years back. The FBI called us directly at our corporate headquarters and said, "How many franchises do you have in this location?" And I said, "We have 3 out there." And so we've dispatched, and Bio1 took care of the Mandalay Bay mass shootings. So anything mass strategy in the sense of a bio situation, the FBI or whoever usually on scene will call us directly and we'll dispatch crews.
Now, how has the media, in terms of Hollywood media, impacted this? Like with shows like CSI or the movie Sunshine Cleaning, how has that impacted your business?
Well, I'll say that the media has brought awareness, so I guess that's a good thing. The downside to that is you do have movies like the Sunshine Cleaning Company made, where it's more of a parody of what's done. It was made. There were some funny moments in the movie. I certainly saw it. I did find it humorous. But it's far from the reality of what happens on a bio scene. Every mistake that can possibly be made was certainly made in that movie. And anybody in the industry kind of chuckles and say, "Well, it's certainly one way of doing it, or one way of getting yourself in trouble." So while it's brought awareness that, hey, companies like ours exist, because I can tell you we've been a very, very clandestine industry. We've been very quiet for about 20 years. Hollywood certainly has said, hey, there are companies that do this. It is, people do like to talk about it now a little bit more than used to. It's more of it is more of a novelty to them that, wow, how do you get into this? So when a movie comes out or unfortunately a mass shooting happens, which happens all too often lately, we get a lot of interest and a lot of people saying they want to join our franchise as employees or work for our franchises, which again, we don't really want to hire somebody that's just calling up saying, hey, I really want to do this. We're looking for obviously business owners to own franchises to show people how to do this correctly.
And what is the kind of psychographic demographic makeup of a franchisee, a potential franchisee? Are they kind of, I have no idea what their background would be in order to be a good fit for you.
Sure. Yeah. We have franchises literally from we have between the two companies, 130 plus franchises, and they are all over the board. The majority of them are at Bio1 because obviously that company's been around for 10 years. Boar's been around for 3. But Bio1 has franchises. Probably 20% of our franchises make up of former law enforcement or firemen, fire professionals. The other probably 80% were corporate people that were downsized that basically said, I never want to be downsized again. I don't want the rug to be pulled out from under me. I need to be able to feed my family. So I want to build a unique business that not everybody does, but has great margins. And on top of it, I think the biggest common denominator that we find at Bio1 and Bohr for that instance. I always say Bohr for best option restoration, but the common denominator is wanting to help people. Because when a Bio1 or a Bohr person gets the call, normally a Bio1, it's not the call of, hey, everything's great. It's the call of, oh no, I'm having the worst day of my life. Somebody help me. And so we're looking for empathy. We're looking for strong ethics, and we're looking for people that really want to run a successful business and be embedded in their community.
Now, does the franchisee have to be the one doing the cleaning, or is this something that they are doing the, people part, and then they hire people that do the cleaning part?
They don't have to do the cleaning. That's for certain. Most of our franchises, and we actually have a training class going on right now in the other room, most of our new franchisees, our new owners, start on scene themselves. They are not required to, but most of them do. So when they are training their folks in their hometown, wherever they're going back to, they can talk to them about what they see, talk to them about what they're going to encounter on scene with the surviving victims or the families. So while this can be run passively, most of our owners for about the first year are actually doing the work side by side with other technicians. And then we call it getting out of the suit. We're going to press them into being real entrepreneurs, real business owners, and getting away from the business and getting out there and marketing the business and growing it, not just working inside it.
Now, when you started this, can you talk about the evolution of the training? Like when you were, I would imagine it started by you or somebody doing the work, and then at some point you're like, we can teach other people how to do this and maybe franchise it. How did that kind of progress from being the person who knows everything to now transferring that knowledge to people who aren't familiar with this really at all?
Sure. Yeah, when I developed the company, I started it. When I first got into the business, the training I received was from a small town restoration firm that was saying that they did bioremediation or crime scene cleanup. So I called the man and asked him, could I come work for you? He was on the other side of the country, so there was really no conflict of interest there. I said, let me come work for you for 2 or 3 weeks if you'll show me how to do this. The training turned out to be the equivalent of, you see that pile of blood? Don't stick your finger in it and stick in your eye. So the training was about as remedial as you get. And so all my training, everything that I developed was on the scene. And I hired microbiologists to teach me and to teach franchises what chemicals do what and how things kill and dwell times. And so throughout the last process of the last 10 years, I guess since we've been franchising, we've developed a training platform that we've compressed into a 6-day platform, which doesn't seem like a lot, but these guys are here 12 to 14 hours a day, and we're cramming information and knowledge about not only marketing, sales, and how to run a business, but actually how to stay safe, OSHA regulations and compliance, and general, what I call it the touchy-feely during the training class, but we have psychologists come in and walk them through the grief process, what they can expect, what they're going to feel after a scene or what could happen to them, what their employees could do. So the training has evolved from don't stick your finger in blood and poke yourself in the eye to a full encompassing, basically 65-hour a week, very long week, if you will, of how not only the human body and brain responds to tragedy, but how to help somebody through a situation and actually clean a scene without getting yourself or anyone else hurt.
And then on top of that, you have to teach them how to get business, which is a different side of their brain altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, that's where I come in. I always handle the sales and marketing side. I spend about 2.5 days where that's all I talk about is the psychology of the sale, how to explain the businesses to other people, how to, it's one thing, most people in life try to stay away from the police as much as they can. I'm telling them just the opposite. Hey guys, you need to walk into a police station and explain to them the value and the service that we're going to provide the community, and we need to team up with them. And that's not always an easy pitch to give to somebody, or tell someone to do when we've done everything in our lives to stay away from police. So, it's a paradigm shift for the mind to bend around doing something that you've always been trained to stay away from. And I will say, thankfully, I've been pretty darn successful in the last 10 years teaching it.
And what has been the most rewarding part? I mean, I know you're going on to scenes that are terrible for the people that have survived that. And there must be some kind of reward in there that you really are truly helping and making impact and making their life better, from that point forward. But then what about from the business standpoint about, like you said, it's over 100, families that you're impacting by letting them in on this and allowing them to be part of your kind of Bio One best option restoration family?
The best, I'll say, on scene. I mean, I tell people in training class that the money's great and you can do very well. I mean, very few people can charge, or will make, $10,000 over a course of 3 or 4 hours. So the money's very nice, and that's great. We all need it. We all need the money. We certainly have to provide for our families and whatnot. But the bigger benefit that you get out of it is spiritual, if you will. And I'm not talking on a godly sense. I mean, just the fact of you doing something for somebody else that in which they should never have seen or never should see the after effects of a homicide or a suicide or a decomposed loved one. The fact that we can go out and when we're finished with this traumatic scene, the families look at you and say, we don't know what we would have done without you. And they give you hugs, and the cards that we get sent to corporate saying how fabulous our franchises are. And, without sounding too touchy-feely about it, and I don't want to say Bio One is changing the world, but I'll tell you this, we're doing everything we can to make it a better place.
If you're just now joining us, you're listening to Franchise Marketing Radio. Our guest today is Nick Anthony Zamucen. He's the founder of Bio One Inc. and Best Option Restoration. Nick Anthony Stone here. In terms of getting the word out about the franchise opportunity with either Bio One and or Best Option Restoration, what are you finding is the best approach, method, vehicles to do that effectively and consistently?
I think having a strong media plan put together for us on the Bio One side, I can tell you, to get the word out there, we rely heavily on local media and marketing. Also, and that could be TV, radio, print ads. But I think what people underestimate is lately has been the need for a strong website, home pages, landing pages. Ironically enough, as I was listening to the intro, one of the sponsors of the show, SEO Samba, is actually a company that we use on both sides of the company. I can tell you they're a pretty fine company, and they do what you ask them to do. So I want to make sure that it's really understood that without a strong media presence, and whether that be print or TV, radio, and a strong internet presence, it's going to be really tough.
Now, what advice would you give that young franchisor that maybe doesn't have the finances to pull off a strong media package to help them get the word out? Is there things they can be doing early on to get it going?
Sure. I would say this: if you start a business undercapitalized and you haven't budgeted for to get the word out, you're already in trouble. But let's just say you're already in trouble and you're trying to figure out what to do. My answer is this: people don't like them very often, but they are a necessary evil, is what we call them in the industry, and that's franchise consultants and franchise brokers. They will take a large piece of the pie when somebody comes aboard, when a new franchisee comes aboard and they bring them aboard. But if you don't have a strong budget and you're already in this and you didn't, let's say, capitalize correctly for a media push, then a consultant or a franchise broker will and can bring people to the table for you. Again, you're going to pay for it in the back end because, again, they take a large percentage when the franchise sells, but they will bring people into the system, and that will allow you to essentially grow your franchise. It's expensive, again, on the back end, but they will allow you to grow the franchise without having that, or I should say, while you're trying to piece together the media budget.
Now, what about that person who has a business that's thriving in a local market and is saying, you know what, I think I'm going to franchise this? At what level of a business do you think it should be before they attempt it?
It's an interesting question because we've seen businesses all over the board, from guys that just, do maybe $150,000 to guys that do $15 million for, decide when they're going to franchise. I think it's less about a revenue size to me and more about when you have a model that you can easily explain, train, and aren't scared to take that leap to show someone your secrets. Because what franchising is zero secrets. You're showing them the secret sauce. A franchisee is paying you to show them the secret sauce of success. And success, while I've said before, and I still agree, success builds on success, and you need to make sure that your company is thriving. When you franchise, it's a personal thing. It's almost like when you sell, it's a very personal thing. When you think you've done everything you can to grow your business and you want to help other people, I would say there's no magic answer to when you should franchise. I will say, when you decide to, make sure the biggest thing that takes down a franchise faster than anything is, one, obviously undercapitalized. The second thing for me is very simple. People tend to franchise and do it the quick route. They buy some franchising package on the internet that says we're going to franchise your company, and usually you're going to get what you pay for. If your legal docs aren't put together, your franchise disclosure documents aren't correct, your registrations in states aren't correct, those fines from the FCC can come down pretty heavy. So make sure your legal docs are in order before you do anything. Now,
you remember when you first said, okay, I'm going to franchise, and then you convinced that first person to do this. What did it feel in terms of you having a sense of responsibility on, now fulfilling on the promise that you made them?
To me, it was like having my first child. It was, hey, sounds like a great idea. And then someone actually hands you money and trusts that you know exactly what you're doing to propel them to success and help them to the next level of life financially. And like that first night with the baby, you lay in bed awake at night staring at the ceiling saying, what did I do? And I can tell you, it gets better, but there should be a sense of grave responsibility that somebody's entrusted their money and their livelihood with you to help them become successful. The one thing that I can tell you kept me up at nights was not my system or not could I teach this, was the one thing that kept me up at night was, will they really listen? Because I'm going to ask them to do some really unorthodox things, like walk into a police station and say this and call the FBI and say this. And so it was more about, will they follow the system, less about, can I teach it? And that's what kept me up at night.
And does that go back to the initial beginning of the relationship where you have to choose wisely in terms of choosing the right franchisee, and they have to choose wisely in terms of this is the right fit?
1,000% correct. That's right. If, there are franchisors out there, especially in the beginning, that will take anybody with a heartbeat in cash just because they need to sell a franchise. They've invested a lot of money. They've gone the right route. They put the legal docs together. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars into this. They're looking for a recovery, and they want franchises because that's how they'll make money as well. We tend to jump the gun on who exactly we should bring aboard, and we compromise who we think we should bring aboard for just getting people aboard. I can tell you, short term, it makes sense at least you think it makes sense, and then you realize you may have gotten into a relationship with a franchisee that you may not have, 10 years into the process. And if you're not real diligent and sticking to your my ideal franchise is this, it could greatly cost you in the end.
And if somebody wanted to learn more about Bio1 and or Best Option Restoration, what are the coordinates?
Oh, I'm just at bio1inc.com, and we have all the information there. And as far as Best Option Restoration, it's just borestoration.com. Two very simple websites. They'll walk you through everything, and at any time, they can always talk to us directly.
Well, Nick Anthony, thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Thank you very much, guys.
All right, this is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on Franchise Marketing Radio.